In this video, we'll be exploring thematic vowels. However, let's first remember some key terms. First, there's a conjugation, which is a family of verbs, and there are 4 of them in the Latin language. Next, we have the root, which is the smallest piece of a verb that shows the meaning. Let's take an example, ambulo, ambulare. The ARE ending shows that it's first conjugation, but the meaning is indicated by these 5 letters, ambule. This shows that the verb means walk, and so this is our root. Next, we have the stem. The stem is formed by removing the RE from the infinitive. So for our verb ambulo, ambulare, our stem is ambula. And this has 2 components, our root ambule and then our thematic vowel A. Together they make the stem. By now I hope you're familiar with many of our endings, including the happy little rhyme OST, mustus enti, which indicates our endings for the present tense. However, there are many other sets of endings as well. Try to remember and practice all of them. Finally, we have our thematic vowel. The thematic vowel is essentially glue. It's what holds your root and the endings together. So we have a pattern of root plus thematic vowel, which I'm abbreviating TV, plus endings is your verb. Or if you'd rather put it, the root plus the thematic vowel is really just your stem for the most part. So it's the stem plus the endings. Okay, here's our next big question. When do you need a thematic vowel? You use a thematic vowel for the tenses in the present system. That is the present and perfect and future tenses. It doesn't matter about the conjugations. All 4 conjugations have to use a thematic vowel for the present system. The remaining 3 tenses, the perfect, the pluperfect, and the future perfect, do not use thematic vowels. In addition, you do not always use a thematic vowel for the first person singular present tense. That is, your first principal part. For example, for our verb ambulo, ambulare, we have the ending O, and there is no thematic vowel that goes between our root and the ending. Okay, now let's review what thematic vowels are used for each conjugation. I'm going to draw a little dividing line between the first and second conjugations and the third and fourth conjugations because they function just a little bit differently. So for our first and second conjugations, these 2 function very regularly. Our infinitives for the first conjugation is ARE, and our infinitive for the second conjugation is ERE. For the present, for the first conjugation, our thematic vowel is A. Sometimes it's short and sometimes it's long. You should ask your teacher about whether or not you should memorize which vowels are short versus which vowels are long for each of the forms. For the second conjugation, your thematic vowel is E. Again, sometimes it's short and sometimes it's long. For the imperfect, we always have a long A thematic vowel before we add on our endings bam, ba, spot, etc. And for the imperfect, for the second conjugation, we always have a long E before our endings bam, bas, bat, etc. For the future tense, we have a long A for the first conjugation before our endings bo, bis, bit, etc. And for the second conjugation, we have a long E before our endings bo, bis, bit, etc. Okay, now I want you to try and conjugate these verbs on your own. My sample verbs for the first conjugation is aspecto, spectare, and for the second conjugation, moneo, monere. Go ahead and give it a shot. In a few seconds, I'll switch the slide. Okay, here is specto, spectare, and moneo, monere, conjugated in the present, imperfect, and future. Go ahead and take a minute to check your answers and make sure that you have the thematic vowel used correctly in each of these forms. Okay, now let's look at regular third conjugation verbs. Notice that I've separated out third conjugation IO because they function much more like fourth conjugation verbs. So third conjugation verbs usually have the ERE with a short E ending for their infinitive. For the present tense, however, that E, because it is so short, is simply too weak to be a thematic vowel. And so the third conjugation uses an I for the most part as its thematic vowel. Our one exception is that for the third person plural, our thematic vowel is U. For the imperfect for third conjugation regular verbs, our thematic vowel is a long E before the bomb, ba, spot, etc. And then keep in mind that for the future tense for third and fourth conjugations, a vowel change is used in order to indicate the tense change. So see if you can remember which vowels we're now using to indicate the future tense. Okay, for the third conjugation, I'm using the verb mitto mittere as my sample verb. See if you can try and conjugate it on your own. In a few seconds, I'll switch the slide. Okay, here is mitto mittere conjugated in the present, imperfect, and future. Once again, take a minute and pause to check over what you've written down and compare it to what's on the slide. Make sure that you've accurately used the thematic vowel for all three tenses. Okay, for the third IO and fourth conjugation verbs, our thematic vowel is once again I for the most part, except for the third person plural where we have IU. Here, the vowel I is going to be sticking with us all throughout the present tense. For the imperfect, maybe you guessed it, we have IE. That I is going to still be hanging out all through the imperfect as well, before we add our endings bomb, ba, spot, etc. And for the future, we once again have a vowel change to indicate the tense. So make sure that you accurately include the new vowel. In addition, keep in mind that I is still not going to disappear. Okay, I'm going to be using the verb sentio sentire, which is a nice fourth conjugation verb, as our sample verb for this chart. Go ahead and try to conjugate it on your own. Okay, now you have all four conjugations written out for the present, imperfect, and future, so you can look at the thematic vowels. Make sure to practice these until you have it down.